Welcome back, everybody, to the 2-point conversion NFL DFS podcast, your week 5 edition. Already a quarter of the way through the NFL season. You can find me on Twitter at BDintric and joined, as always, by my two co-hosts. We got Bucks on Twitter at BPSnow11. Bucks, how we doing?
Doing great, Bubba. Doing really well.
Good. And James, you can find him on Twitter at PayDirt_DFS. James, how we doing?
What up? I'm great. I pulled a shoulder muscle, I think, earlier. So, other than that, but great.
Oh, no. Let's do a quick recap of last week. Bucks, kick us off. How did things fare with all the injuries that took place last week?
Yeah, last week was super tilting. I had 6 lineups. Basically, I had 3 Mariota stacks and then 3 Eli stacks. And I lost, I think, 70% of my weekly entries. So I didn't lose it all, which was surprising. The most tilting thing is I had a lineup with 150 points with Mariota, Dalvin Cook, Goodwin, and Julio Jones. So I had 4 guys that played half the game and had 150 points.
Man.
That's super tilting. But honestly, when you look at it, we were on the right calls and just got unlucky. And so all in all, I would say it was a successful week, even though it wasn't profitable. So it's good.
Yeah. We've all been talking about it. The plays were the right plays. You can't do injuries. So, James, why don't you enlighten everybody on why you almost quit DraftKings?
Oh, man.
I felt for you.
Nice DraftKings shirt, by the way.
Yeah, I am wearing a DraftKings shirt, but maybe not for long. I've never been so mad about the outcome of a contest. I missed the cash line in high dollar stuff in like the Wildcat by 1.2 points. I had CJ Anderson in that lineup, who was five yards away from the rushing bonus. I had Carson Palmer, who threw an interception. I had Larry Fitzgerald, who was targeted half as much as Andre frickin' Ellington. I had Marquise Lee, who dropped that pass at the end of the game where he had it and then just fell to the ground and dropped the frickin' ball. There were like 40 different instances that I could have hit the cash line and like saved my day because I was within 5 points on every single contest that I entered with single entry and missed them all with that one. And just, it was, I had to take a walk. I had to like throw my phone across the room and take a walk and not talk to anyone for 10 minutes. It was the worst. So it was not great, but I know that a lot of the people who listen to this podcast did really well last week. The content was there, just the grossest variance for both me and Bucks, just the worst variance this week.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it was brutal. The big one that got me was Dalvin Cook. He was doing beautiful. And then just down he goes. I had Julio, Cook, and one of the other guys in one of my lineups, but that one didn't do nearly as good as the 150 Bucks put up, so it wouldn't have mattered like that. But yeah, very, very frustrating week. And you guys nailed all that because we were all on the same stuff for the most part. So let's take it to week 5. I just wanted to bring it up to everybody. When I looked at the slates, there are options besides just like the full week or the prime time. They have a Sunday afternoon and Monday. It's like a 5-game slate if you want to get a little bigger than just like 2 games. They have the 8-game early, the 11-game all Sunday. So there's options if you don't want just 2-game slates. I wanted to bring that up. They're kind of mixing it up more right now.
If you're going to mix it up, though,
no, I know.
With all these different options, just add the Sunday night game.
No, I'm 100% with you. I'm just like, I didn't know the 5-1 existed, so that kind of at least loosened it up a little, but not. Yeah. It would have been great like last week when you wanted this like Sunday and Monday game. This week, I don't know if I wanted as much.
Yeah.
But let's get at it. Thursday night, this is one of the best games of the week, one of the highest totals of the week. We don't get it. New England at Tampa, total 55. This has the potential for Well, no defense. So, Bucks, kick us off on this one.
Yeah, this game has – I never play the Thursday night slate the full week, but this game definitely has me kind of wanting to because it could just be monstrous. I mean, not only is it by far the highest implied total, but this is a huge boost for Thursday Night Football in general. Both defenses are terrible. Pats look worse, though. Tampa's getting back some key players this week, which will help, but both teams average over 60 plays a game, and the Pats average 68, which is just insane. Obviously, Brady's in play here at 8K. It's going to be much harder for him, I think, to hit value compared to Jameis, who's $2,000 cheaper. 6K for Jameis in this game is just insane to me. Evans, Djax, all day long. I love both of them. I'm not a big fan of any of the running backs in this game, just because I think it's going to be an air assault type day. Doug Martin does come back, FYI, and he does have a cake matchup. So for $5,500, he may be worth a flyer. But again, I'm not going to trust it, especially first day back. All receiving options in play. But I'm definitely going to play – if I play this slate, I'm definitely playing Djax. I don't see any scenario where Jameis doesn't throw for like at least 2 or 3 touchdowns. And if that happens, I think Djax at 5,400 is just super value. On the Pat side, I love Hogan. I think with most of the attention kind of filtering to Cooks, and Cooks is $7,400 with 24 targets on the year. Hogan is 6,100 with 26 targets, and he is just a TD machine. So I think he makes it 4 in a row. Love Hogan at that value. Amendola's in play, but he really doesn't rack up that many yards. I mean, he can go off any week, but he doesn't rack up a ton of yards. I am not going to touch Gronk at $6,900 when there's so many other options. And Tampa Bay has been pretty good against tight ends. So I do see Gronk catching 5 balls for 70 yards, something like that. But if he doesn't catch a TD, there's no value there. And then last, Brait is an interesting play, $3,700, and they're going to have to throw it a ton. So I think he's definitely in play.
Thoughts on this, James?
Yeah, I mean, Tom Brady's always in play. 8,000. He's got higher yards per attempt, higher attempts, higher yards in every game. He's on pace to break the yardage totals for a quarterback set by Peyton Manning back a couple years back. So I'll pretty much pay for Tom Brady up until about 9,000, I think, if I'm going to play the Thursday slate. Jameis Winston on the other side, obviously 6K is a very nice price. But I think that if you were going to play the Thursday slate, you might consider going to a different quarterback and just hoping that it's all rushing touchdowns, because he will be very, 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 very highly owned.
Yes.
And I think that quarterback is one of those positions where you can differentiate a little bit easier, because if there is a quarterback that's going to be like 30% owned, we all know that quarterbacks don't really matter. When you're considering if they're going to score 20 or more points, they pretty much all have the opportunity to score 30 to 35 points. So if there's going to be really talking one, I prefer to kind of fade that a little bit, and I'd rather go Brady on this one. Chris Hogan's market share has been up by a lot lately. We know that he's been seeing a lot of targets. He's been seeing a lot of red zone targets. He is now the leader in market share on that team, just past Brandon Cooks, according to Daily Roto. Rob Gronkowski is at 20, but Gronk's a monster, and he is what he is. That's why he's 6,900. But I think that Hogan at 6,100 is a much better play than Brandon Cooks at 7,400. They both have big playability, and people just like taking the deeper target, I guess, with Brandon Cooks. But we have him projected much, much worse than we have Chris Hogan, mostly based on his reception percentages and his market share of receiving touchdowns. So I'd rather have Hogan pairing up with Brady. I love Gronk as always every week. He's an absolute monster. Mike Gillislee is interesting if you think that the Patriots are going to crush. If you think that Tampa Bay stays in this game, then Gillislee is pointless. You just put it in James White instead. But if you think that the Patriots are going to win this game by a pretty significant amount, something that's telling is that Mike Gillislee has a lot more upside when they get into the red zone. I'm pretty sure that his red zone opportunities in those games where they blew out the teams were like 7 and 8 opportunities, and the opportunities where the Patriots had to fight, he only had 2 or 3. So he has over double the upside in games where you think the Patriots are going to dominate. So if you think Patriots dominate, you want to play Mike Gillislee.
I just don't see a world where they dominate this game.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's a subjective thought. That's why I said if you think. I'm on the boat that they keep up, that Tampa Bay does keep up in this game, and I think that it's the smart idea to say that this is a shootout. But I would prefer to play Tom Brady with Rob Gronkowski / Chris Hogan and bring it back with Djax. I love Djax as a play. I agree with Bucks. But I also love Mike Evans because he's a top 5 wide receiver in the league. And there's nobody on New England that can really cover him. He's, like I've said, he's one of those guys that's really good when there's a corner that's not going to be super, super heavy on him and press him. So I really like Mike Evans' matchup. 7,900 is too cheap. I think that you can stack up this game any which way.
Yes.
Yeah. Djax definitely. The thing that concerns me with Evans, and I totally agree, nobody can stop him. But we talk about it every week. Belichick picks the top target and takes care of it. McCaffrey last week even got like double covered almost out of the backfield. So that'd be my only concern there. Winston's great. I love Doug Martin, but I'm really concerned about what he's going to be this week. Down the road, this is going to be a great play. His value should be there most weeks. And it's crazy when you look at New England, like you guys mentioned, you look at DVOA numbers. Now we have 4 games. They're the worst overall, worst against the pass, 22nd against the rush. They're just bad at football right now.
Terrible.
But Tampa Bay's 25th, 27th against the pass, but they're 3rd against the rush, and that's something that got my attention. And the thing other than that, though, pass-catching running backs, they're 30th against. So James White, I love this week. Absolutely love him. They're going to have no one to guard him. The reason why I want none of Cooks besides the price is Brent Grimes is going to be back. He's going to be all over him. So I had Brady, White, and Hogan as a stack for me. If you're going that route, that's where I would be all over. And if you want to be weird, since it's a full slate, like you guys said, you can either just play Brady or you play like, a Djax, a Hogan, whatever. Don't play a quarterback like you mentioned, and go play Rodgers and some other guys in that late night or the late afternoon Sunday game, the other high-scoring game, because everyone's going to focus on this one. So just a way to differentiate. More time than we probably will all season on a Thursday game. Let's go to Sunday action. We kick it off in Buffalo versus Cincinnati. Bucks mentioned there might be some rain in this one, which makes things interesting. Cincinnati is 3-point favorite. Total's only 39. Let James kick it off on this one.
Yeah, the total is probably pretty low in this one. Buffalo doesn't have much of a pass rush right now, and Cincinnati's big issue is that their line can't hold up and protect Andy Dalton. Like I've been saying kind of all year, Buffalo's secondary isn't super great. I know that they had that win against the Falcons last week, but Julio Jones was hurt and Mohamed Sanu was out of the game. I'm not going to buy that they're this fantastic defense. I've still seen a lot of leaky holes. I know the numbers say they're good, but when you watch it, it doesn't translate over to practice. I just don't see them being great. So I think that A.J. Green is entirely in play here, especially at home against this Buffalo secondary. LaShawn McCoy is too cheap. Concerned about using this is the guy that I willingly pay $8,500, $7,800, too cheap. This game, said already, Cincinnati atrocious, and there's been a lot of talk about how Joe Mixon, the hype has been bad. Not a good player, but do anything when getting his average 9.4. He's not even getting that the volume is there for him. I don't know that I want to go there this game, but it's something to monitor. The volume is there for him. They've turned to him now. So I think that it's something to monitor there with him. With wide receivers, it's probably going to be Zay Jones week. He's going to be really, really popular. I think because he's only 3,600. I don't know who else they're going to throw to. It's pretty much just him, Clay Matthews, and who else is even on that team for Buffalo? I have no idea who's even on that team. So Zay Jones at 3,600 is interesting. Charles Clay, of course, fantastic. But really, it's just LaShawn McCoy and A.J. Green. I just want to go to the playmakers and see what they can do.
Yep, I agree. Bucks, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, this is a tough game here because it has such a low implied total. There is potential for weather, and I think both of these defenses can kind of hold their own. Honestly, I'm fading most of this game, if not all of it. I really liked Shady, and I actually have him in my lineup right now. I only have one lineup this week right now. Typically, I have three at this point, and I might add some if I like another stack. But I have one lineup right now. It has Shady in it, but with Perfect being back and me being so tilted off injury last week, I think there's a chance that Perfect injures Shady, and that would just piss me off. So I think I might move off of Shady. The only other person here that I like, and James mentioned not having that many targets, Charles Clay has been a monster this year so far. He's a huge piece of that offense, and he's the only guy that I think has some steady value. So he is expensive though. So $4,800 is a lot of really good value at the tight end position this week. But they're gonna have to throw to them to win this game. So we'll see. Also, Cincinnati D will definitely be in play for me. If I think that they're gonna stop Shady, I'm gonna play Cincinnati D.
Yeah, I don't hate it, especially if that rain comes into play. It's going to change a lot of things in that game. I think both defenses are actually going to play. The Bills are. I know we were skeptical about them last week, and sure, Sanu and Jones were injured, but really, outside of Green, who scares you on Cincinnati for the most part. Dalton might throw a pick or two. You get the Bills at 2,600. I prefer Cincinnati, of course, but the Bills could be one of those cheap punt-type plays like the Jets or whatever that we talked about in the past. Outside of Shady, A.J. Green, I'm 100% on board with you guys. The only guy I'd keep an eye on is if for some reason Eifert's out again, Tyler Croft at 3,200. I know it's not the value we had last week. Still a nice lower-priced option to not just completely sleep on because Andy's going to go there if AJ's covered, so he'll get his targets.
He was a monster last week.
Yeah, when they get in the red zone, it's like Varsity Blues, except A.J. Green's a receiver, not a running back. Gilmer goes to a different weapon in the red zone. It's just what they do. So he's worth a look if Eifert sits. Let's go Jets at Cleveland. It's a pick'em. It is a total of 39. It's two horrible football teams, and I'm slightly aroused by some options in this game. So I'll let you guys kick it off and see if you hit on what I have written down. Bucks, get us going.
Yeah, so I think this is like a terrible game, but this is like that terrible game with
It was like Cleveland at Indianapolis.
Yeah, it's like terrible game, terrible defenses, and that just opens the door for opportunity. So I don't like either of the QBs here, but I really like both the running backs. Powell is going to be chalky, I believe, because he had such a monster game last week that everybody called. And that could definitely continue this week. I'm not saying it can't. $6,200 for a guy that can touch it and should touch it 20 times represents some value, so I dig it. Same for Duke Johnson, $4,900. He's definitely going to catch at least 5 balls or something like that. He sees goal line work, so he's definitely in play for me. I don't really like any of the receivers here, but I think the one other guy that I would potentially look at, and I've been on him a couple weeks now, is Safarian Jenkins. I think he sees the majority of the targets. He's $3,500. And so if I think that he has 8 targets and can catch 6 balls, and their running game can move it, he's going to be a red zone target. So I think he has good opportunity.
Yeah, I'm on board on all that. I have a couple more, but James, what do you got on this one?
So regarding Austin Safarian Jenkins, you remember how last week I was like the Browns have sucked against tight ends for 2 years straight, and then Tyler Croft put up like 663 and 2 against them?
Yes.
Croft is like half the man that Austin Safarian Jenkins is.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I like Austin Safarian Jenkins a lot. I will also say, you said that you don't like either quarterback. Do you know how cheap Josh McCown is?
Yep.
That's crazy.
45.
He is literally cheaper than the backup QB for the Browns. He is 45. 4,500 is not a fair price for
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. I love that, man. I know that it was Stevie PFL and Siege were both on Jacoby Brissett and the Colts stacking against the Browns a couple weeks ago. And you can stack Josh McCown, Austin Safarian Jenkins, and Jermaine Kearse and get the entirety of the offense besides Bilal Powell, who's going to be ultra chalky, for free.
Yeah.
And then just stack every single good player around them. I'm pretty sure you can fit both Bell and Antonio Brown. You can do like a Jets Steelers stack if you want, and it's
so dirty but awesome.
It's awesome. So
McCown can trip over his foot and complete one pass and hit value. So,
dude, yeah, he's 4,500. If you find Austin Jenkins twice in the end zone, you crush in GPPs. That's my legit option. I think that I just found out what I'm going to do in GPPs. I'm just going McCown ASJ.
I don't hate it. There's a couple more nasty cheap quarterbacks to come, but that's one of them right there.
Yeah, that's definitely one of them.
God damn it, James.
I think that Duke Johnson is going to be kind of chalky, which is silly to me, considering this is somebody who has less than 50% of market share in every single position that we measure. Only 16% market share of the rush, 17% market share of the targets. I understand the play if he's 3,500, but at 5K, I can find somebody that I like a little bit better.
It's getting all the touchdowns.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting all of the 1 touchdown. Like
the 2 touchdowns all year.
Yeah, man. Like, I don't think I'm gonna buy that chalk. I don't really like anybody on the Cleveland side, but I could see Kaiser and Ricardo Lewis or Kaiser and Njoku. Like, it's too hard to project for me to be on them. But I do think they can keep up in this game because the Jets are that bad. So overall, give me McCown and ASJ pretty much everywhere, and just let me have all of the good players around them.
You hit on one of the ones that I'm excited about in this. McCown, that price tag, dumb. I actually don't even mind McCown naked because you don't know where he's going to go, and you stack up position players elsewhere. I'm fine with that. But Safarian Jenkins is cheap enough. On Duke Johnson, he has 5 or more targets in every game this year, and they've only gone up. So I can't completely hate that play at 49. I know it's chalk, but if you're going to tell me I'm going to get 10-plus points with the ceiling in the 20s, it's hard to ignore the chalk. A guy to keep an eye on as the week goes on, if you want to get weird in this one, is Elijah McGuire at 43 because the Browns are actually good at stopping the run. They're horrible at stopping pass-catching guys, and McGuire and Powell, given Powell's better, but we've seen how they've used Powell before last week. They like to split the load up for some reason. So if you want to get GPP weird, but you already are in this game, you can go there. The receiver you did not mention is Ryan Anderson at $4,000 or Robbie Anderson at $4,000. That's the guy I'm looking at. He has, where did it go there? 6 targets in each of his last 2 games, 6 or more in 3 of his 4. McCown's looking this way, and it's not his fault. McCown's horrible. But Robbie Anderson, he likes to run deeper routes. He's a receiver out there. I like that one as a big upside play. So you can McCown at 45, you can get Anderson at 4K and Safarian Jenkins at 35. And like you said, have every dollar to spend on the planet It's crazy. You can even throw Powell in there if you want, but these two teams are horrible. And honestly, I think this total's too low unless it's literally like a 6-3 game where you just eat it. But I was so excited about Cleveland and Indianapolis earlier this year, and this has that same feel to it that it could be wild. And honestly, I think the Browns' offense is fine, but the last 2 weeks, the Jets' defense has been good. The cheap defenses this week are rough. We'll get through them. And I realized today, maybe I'm totally wrong. The cheapies aren't there as easily, and I know they played the Dolphins, who are horrible, but overall they played decent this year. Besides a couple of big plays, so 3K on that. But yeah, McCown, Jenkins, Anderson. That's where I'm going and saving all the money in the world. Carolina at Detroit. Detroit 2.5-point home favorites. Totals 44. This game I want nothing to do with, but James, what do you like on this one?
Man, I actually like this game. I think this total should be a lot higher. I think that Cam Newton is going to break out of that slump that he's been in the beginning of the year. It's kind of like I was saying on Twitter. I think I might have said it on Twitter, but beating the Patriots is going to be really big for Cam Newton's confidence moving forward in game. His arm looked much better. He made much better decisions. I understand that the Patriots defense is not good, but from an athlete's mentality, sometimes all you need is just to have that game where you get to go off. He ran one in. He threw a couple touchdowns. It was a good game for him. So that up against Detroit, who we should assume that Darius Slay will be on Kelvin Benjamin, but Funchess has been a freaking monster since he started getting the targets. So I just think this is a game, especially with Detroit's linebackers. Detroit's linebackers are some of the slowest in the league. They're not going to be able to cover Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield. So this game, and it's in a dome. There's so many things that I like about this game. I just think this total should be higher. I really like going back to Cam Newton, going back to the well on it. He's still only 6,500, which is a discount from what his normal season is. And I think you can pair him with Devin Funchess or Christian McCaffrey, and then bring it back with Detroit, because Carolina's defense hasn't been good this year in the secondary. And you can get Matthew Stafford for 6,300. You can pair him up with Marvin Jones, with Kenny Golladay still being out. You can pair him up with Golden Tate. This is a stackable game, in my opinion, with two defenses that have been bend but don't break, and two very good high-octane offenses.
What do you think, Bucks?
Yeah, I mean, I like a lot of what you said. I think the total should be higher. I think Cam Newton looked like a completely different person last week. And I think that this has the potential to be a shootout. So, I mean, 44 and the Lions being favored, I think is suspect. But I think for $6,500, Cam Newton's definitely in play. I would prefer him over Stafford at that price. I'm not touching the running backs. I'm a huge Theo Riddick fan, but I'm not there this week. I do like Golden Tate. He's obviously a shifty slot back that I think is going to give Carolina some problems. But the guy, and I know that, James, you mentioned him, and you've been on him for a couple weeks now, but I really like Funchess. I think that, especially, I don't know if you guys have watched any of the pressers from the last couple of days, but Cam Newton loves that guy. Mm-hmm. He says he looks like a different guy. He's preparing differently. He's taking it way more seriously. And so I really like the kind of like that long-term play there. He is starting to get up there from a price perspective, but still he's commanding a lot of the targets. So I do like him. From a tight end perspective, I don't like anybody there. So I think for me, if I had to play this game, which I am not at the moment, I would be going Cam Funchess, then probably playing Golden Tate on the other side.
Yeah, I don't disagree with what James is saying. It's just kind of what I was talking with Bucks before the pod is I kind of can narrow this slate down in my picks a lot more. And this is a game that's not on that list. could totally bite me. I do like Funchess. I used him last week. He is a monster. And if you want like one-offs from like, I'm just not stacking this game. I might sprinkle it in because Funchess isn't bad. I really do like McCaffrey. One thing that is going to be really interesting to see in this matchup, the guy's fast, and this is his first game on turf. So I believe it's his first, maybe a second, but I don't remember he had one on turf yet. And that's going to be really, yeah, it's all been on grass. So that makes it really, really interesting to me to see if he can open up on that one. Other than that, I don't hate the game. I just, especially in the price range of like Stafford and Newton, there's a couple other guys I like Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers or something. So I'm just looking at different areas, but I don't hate the game, and maybe it goes bananas. Let's move on to the Niners at the Colts. Another stinky one that looks kind of nice. Total of 44, better than Cleveland's. Bucks, what do you have here?
Yeah, I mean, this is a sneaky game for me. I think that this could definitely go over that 44 number. There are a couple solid plays. I do like Hyde at $6,900. He has, and I know, James, you mentioned this week, I think, on Twitter, but he has so many red zone opportunities and 2 touchdowns. So
19 opportunities, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, you talked about normalization last week, and the dude is due. So if he's healthy, he's definitely going to be in the mix for me. Another guy, just because the 49ers are so bad, the dude's 1,000 years old, but Gore at 4,400, I think has a chance, especially if they move the ball well and he can get a couple goal line carries. $4,400 for a guy I think has 70 yards, but has a chance to have multiple goal line opportunities, I think is value. As far as wide receivers go, I think people gravitate towards Garcon, and he's awesome, but I think he has he has another really hard matchup this week with Davis coming up fresh off of Peterson. So I would have loved to play Goodwin again, but I can't in good conscience play a guy that has a legit chance of missing the game. The dude's had 4 concussions in the last 4 months or something like that. It's like one every month the last 4 months or something. So for me, I think if I played a super, super punt wide receiver this week, it would be Aldrick Robinson at $3,100.
I second that.
Got a ton of targets last week. I know what he can do just from his days in Washington. So if I think Garcon's getting handled, and I think that Goodwin misses, Robinson's a really great play for me. But my real play this week in this game and a core play for me is going to be T.Y. Hilton. I think he will be I don't know. I think my initial projections were under 15% ownership, and he's one of those true GPP guys. He can go 170 and 2 touchdowns any game, and I think that this is a really good opportunity for that. $6,000 and playing against one of the worst slot corners in the league, I'm going to give it a whirl all day long.
I like that. I like it a lot. James, what do you have on this one?
Yeah, Carlos Hyde is going to be one of my highest owned players this week. That's pretty much guaranteed. The Colts are really, really bad against the run. They have been for at least since the beginning of last year, and they've just lost more defensive personnel as well through attrition at the beginning of this year. So I really like Carlos Hyde. I mentioned the normalization that should be coming for him. I talked about it last week with Le'Veon Bell, and he absolutely delivered. So I think that Hyde is probably the next one up. 19 red zone touches and only 2 touchdowns so far. That is one of the worst ratios in the league right now, only behind CJ Anderson, who has 19 opportunities and 1 touchdown on the year.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to be back on that play again, but sticking on this game, I really like Carlos Hyde. As far as QBs go, I could see myself getting on Jacoby Brissett.
Yep.
He's probably only got 1 or 2 more weeks before Andrew Luck is back, but he's been pretty good. He hasn't made a lot of mistakes, and it's pretty hard to make mistakes against this San Francisco team. My only issue is that they don't really like to have him throw a lot. The volume isn't really there. That was one of the reasons why I played Carson Palmer against this defense last week, was because the volume is there. So I'm not super on Brissett. Brian Hoyer just doesn't have enough upside for me to consider him at 4,700 when I want all of them count at 4,500. Frank Gore his price actually matches his age this week, so that's a pretty cool thing. But
including the zeros.
Man, I understand why you would be on him, though. The 49ers are very, very bad against the rush, so I get that, and I understand the red zone opportunities. So I don't hate that play. I just don't think that I'll be on that myself because I don't think that I'll pay down for running back. But if I do, then that's certainly an option.
Yeah.
You mentioned Aldrick Robinson. He should be called Aldrick Chalkinson this week because he will be popular. We're talking like 30% owned. If my guess is correct in the lower dollar tournaments, I think he's going to be super, super, super owned, but for good reason. This is one of those plays where it's good chalk. He's 3,100. He's going to see market share. He's going to be getting the deep targets Marquise Goodwin will be missing. And he's a baller, man. Like, he's always been a preseason hero. When he gets opportunities, he generally delivers. So I really like him at 3,100. I don't have a problem with eating that chalk. Pierre Garçon is a fine option as well. 6,100 is maybe a little bit too expensive for me, though.
Yes.
And if I'm not super interested in Hoyer, then I'm not going to be super interested in Garçon because the volume will probably be there, but he just doesn't catch it downfield. You mentioned T.Y. Hilton. I am totally fine with T.Y. Hilton. I am also totally fine with Dante Moncrief even. Any wide receivers really against this San Francisco team. Their secondary is bad, but their front seven is good, so this is a nice little funnel defense. So I just like Hyde and Aldrick Robinson here, and then you can take shot with T.Y. Hilton if you want it.
Yeah, Hyde's probably one of the top 5 running backs for me, maybe even shorter list than that. The Colts are horrible against the run, horrible against pass-catching backs, just everything you want in a player. And Hyde's going to get those targets at 6,900 and those chances inside the red zone. I do like Brissett a lot at that 5,600 price tag. You mentioned their front seven's good, so he can run. We've seen him do that, plus the funneling, short pass game. I like all that, which feeds right into Hilton at 6K. I have no problem with like a Brissett, Hyde, Hilton stacking this, and you can still get a lot going there. And the Frank Gore deal, he's got a ton of red zone looks already this year. He's getting you 10-plus every game. Revenge factor, if you want to get on stupid narrative streets, there's all kinds of things in there. But he's very, very intriguing. But I haven't been on him since week 1 when they gave 3 1-yard carries to 3 different running backs not named Frank Gore against the Rams. So that I was so angry at that one. But yeah, I think Brissett, Hilton, Hyde will be my main 3. I don't hate Aldrick Robinson. If I'm looking at fan share, which I did last Saturday, and he's not too bad, say 15 or less, I will jump all over him. But if he's chalky, that's no fun. So
do you think that he is so much chalkier because Goodwin got hurt? Because I view them as like the same player, and Goodwin was what was he, 2% or something stupid last week?
Yeah, Goodwin's never owned, and I don't understand why, because they've literally just missed him how many times now for bombs? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So they're gonna keep going to it.
Yeah, the most tilting thing about last week was that he got a 19-yard reception on the first drive, and then goes out with a concussion. It's like, but yeah, Aldrick Robinson is going to be chalky for the main reason that Adam Levitan is in love with the guy. He moves the needle, like being one of those huge guys in the industry. And if he is saying that Aldrick Robinson is the play this week, and I know he's going to DK playbook, he's going to be super popular.
That's a very good option there. Well, there's a lot of dirtiness in this to go with your Jets, Cleveland guys, and build elsewhere. But let's go to a game that's going to probably make me sad by noon on Sunday. The Titans at the Dolphins. no totals out, no lines, because for some reason they don't realize Mariota is out and Castle is starting, even though they signed another horrible quarterback. I just blanked all of a sudden. But what do you got on this one, James? It's pretty ugly, but offense could be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I don't know. You could be on Devontae Parker, but if you play Jay Cutler, you deserve to lose money, man. He's so bad. The dude does not care about the game at all. Like, at all. He's just going to chuck it up to Devontae Parker 1,000 times. And, like, I know the Tennessee defense is really bad, and I get it. But, man, Jay Cutler might be worse than the Tennessee Titans defense is. So I like Devontae Parker at 6,600. He's got 8 targets in pretty much every single game that they've played. He's getting fed. He's a big guy. He's a good talent. I like Devontae Parker. I'm totally fine with Devontae Parker. With the running backs, J.J. is only 6,600. The Tennessee strength is their rushing front, so I'm not really on that. But at 6,600, getting the Lions' share of what they're doing, I think that he's in play for the same reason why we'll talk about Melvin Gordon later. DeMarco Murray at 5,400, that's a hilarious price tag. Yep. I know that he's been splitting work with Derrick Henry, but at 5,400, I think that he's worth a shot. I don't have a lot of interest here. In fact, I like the Miami defense more than anything else in this game because Matt Cassell, I'm pretty sure, holds the record for the most pick sixes per start.
It was like one a game for like 8 straight games right there.
Oh, dude, he's bad. His decision-making makes Jay Cutler look like a god, and that's saying something after the rant that I just went on. So,
oh my gosh.
I like the Miami defense more than I like anything. Devontae Parker is a really good play at 6,600 with the volume and yards per target that he is getting, and that's all that I want.
Yeah, let me just tell you something real quick. So last week when Castle came in, he was 4 of 10 for 21 yards. His longest completion was 10 yards, no touchdowns and 2 interceptions, minus 2.16 points. Oh, and a lost fumble. So 3 turnovers.
He's so bad.
Yeah, just want to throw that out there. Bucks, what do you got on this one? That sums it up.
No, this is like
you want to go deep on the Dolphins, but it's scary.
So when I looked at this game, I looked at the Titans defense, and then I looked at the targets that Jarvis is getting, that Parker's getting, and then I went, if they both carve this game up, I guess that puts Cutler in play.
Yeah. I know. I'll let you finish your sentence.
And then I had to delete what I wrote down, and then I typed it back in again. So I just think that 6,600 for Parker, I think, is an awesome play. And I think for 5,800, I think Landry's a good play. Mm-hmm. I think both have top 15 to 20 potential this week. And so for $5,200, that's automatically putting Cutler in play. And I know we talked about McCown at 4,500, but these weapons are way better than anybody McCown's throwing to. And so I might just set my money on fire this week and play Cutler and Devontae Parker and Landry.
We can text each other pictures of drinking in the daytime.
So the last two, well, I don't know if it's considered a word, but my last sentence in this little blurb is GPP winner, ? Ugh.
Yeah, I get it. I completely get it. I can't say. Oh man, I don't even want to say this sentence. I can't use Cutler. I just have such a spite against him. I agree. I agree with everything you're saying, but I also agree with everything James said about him. So it's just like if you want to gamble, I literally wrote that down. Depends on how much you want to gamble. That's where it goes. But DeMarco Murray, you said 5,400. That's ridiculously too cheap. I don't care. Castle's going to have to drop it off, and I think as long as the game's close, they're going to feed him and Henry a lot. They don't want Castle dropping back. It's that simple. And the Dolphins' offense has been horrific, even against bad defenses. So this is the Dolphins that I know and love that will let me down again, probably. Just what they do. But with that being said, I do love Landry and love Parker this week. I like Parker more than Landry, but they're both going to get theirs. And I'm 100% with James on the defense, $2,700. That's a great, cheap defense to log in on because even if Tennessee scores 20 points, you're going to get like 4 Castle turnovers and a sack or 2. You're going to get your points back. So that's not the issue. And one other thing is Tennessee's 25th worst against tight ends this year. And the last few weeks he's been looking at Julius Thomas quite a bit, especially in the red zone, something we remember him doing with Chicago a lot. So Thomas at 2,800 for a tight end is an option.
So we're touting Jarvis, Parker, Thomas, and not Cutler.
No. Okay, Jay Cutler is $5,200. If you feel like slitting your wrist on a Saturday or a Sunday, play Jay Cutler, and if he wins you money, you can buy Band-Aids.
I'm going to play Cutler and turn off my phone.
I've got a prop for you. I will put up the Dolphins' defensive score against Jay Cutler's score.
Oh, that's really good.
That's just really good.
Well, I hope they score 30 because Cutler's going off.
Okay, well,
you know what you're making me do now? I have to build a Cutler lineup.
I have one lineup this week right now, and it's in the 1,500, and it has Cutler in it right now.
Oh God, I just got sick for you. I hope you win, though. I will be rooting you on. But
all right, moving on.
Yeah, I'll say we can't puke on Cutler forever. So we got the Chargers at the Giants. Now this is a game I'm getting into. The only concern is you're going to get the whole narrative: West Coast flying east, early start, blah blah blah, that whole deal. But the Giants minus 3.5 point home favorites, total 44.5. I can see that both these guys are going to throw it combined over 60 times today easily. Like it's going to be awesome. Yeah. Bucks, kick us off here.
Yeah, this is a sneaky game. I think that this over/under line here is low. I think they can blow through this real quick. I think both defenses are mediocre and a little banged up, and the offense on both sides can be powerful when they're clicking. Eli is starting to click and has hit value 2 weeks in a row. Home game here, and it's $6,100. He's definitely one of my top guys to hit 4x. I mean, I think the way he's been getting it out of his hand a lot quicker the last few weeks, if he can continue that, he has a huge value. I'm not a huge fan of Rivers, primarily because I think this is a Melvin Gordon game. I like Gordon a lot this game. He is just a workhorse, and he is a workhorse who just complained about his touches. And so he will get increased touches this week. He's typically a TD monster, and this is against a D who they should move the ball against. So $6,000 this week for Gordon is super, super cheap for a guy that should get. I mean, he should get a ton of carries in the red zone this week. So I could definitely see him hitting 4-5x. I'm avoiding the Giants running back situation. I do, as far as wide receivers go, I love Keenan Allen this week. I think Williams is still going to be pretty popular this week, but he's going to be seeing a lot of Jenkins on the outside, which is going to leave Allen open in the slot to catch a ton of balls. Easily 10-plus targets again. As far as Beckham goes, he's going to play, I think, but it's hard for me to trust any receiver who got jacked up the week before. I mean, his finger looked just atrocious. So, I mean, unless he's going to catch a ton of one-handed balls, which he can do, I'm not in love with Beckham. But I think the Beckham injury gives a huge bump to Shepard at $5,200. And then the rookie Ingram at 4,000 is interesting to me because they love that guy, especially in the red zone. And if Beckham plays, but is more of a decoy, and I'm not saying he will be, it depends on how he progresses throughout the week. But I think Ingram has a really good shot to meet value as well. Yeah, I'm not going to play any tight end on the Chargers. It's just too much of a toss-up for me.
All right. What about you, James?
Yeah, I mostly agree with Bucks. I think that Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers are both on offenses that throw the ball a lot. They will throw a combined 60, 70 times. We have both of these offenses at 60% of passing plays next to 40% rushing plays. The Chargers specifically at 64% passing plays projected forward. So for Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning, I also prefer Eli Manning over Phillip Rivers if we're going to go that route, although I like Phillip Rivers' weapons more. Janoris Jenkins has been fantastic this year, so Tyrell Williams is off my radar. I do like Travis Benjamin. I'll say that. If they run a lot of wide sets, Travis Benjamin at 4K is too cheap since he will not be seeing a lot of Janoris Jenkins.
He's going to be on Eli Apple, right?
He'll be on Eli Apple.
And that's a touchdown machine.
So you got to play him.
Yeah. So we really like Travis Benjamin. It sounds like all three of us are on board with that. Odell Beckham Jr., like you said, he's kind of messed up. His ankle's probably not healed all the way. His hand is now messed up. And he has to go up against Casey Hayward. And Casey Hayward has been good in man coverage this year. He's been really good at the shutdown corner. So OBJ obviously can win any battle when he's 100% healthy. But at 85% health, I don't want to pay $8,500 for him. I don't really have an inclination there. With that being said, I agree with you with Sterling Shepard, 5,200. He's been really, really good when OBJ has not been the main target. So Sterling Shepard looks great at 5,200. Brandon Marshall at 4,600 is also too cheap. So the secondary wide receivers for me to pair with Eli would be the way that I go. Talking about Mr. Melvin Gordon, he's only 6K.
I know, it's crazy, man.
Stupid.
That's insanity. Like, I understand that he only got 10 carries last week, but he got 10 carries against one of the best front sevens in the league. His receiving work is a little bit of a concern. He only got a couple targets last week, whereas he was getting 6+ in the first 2 weeks. So, but he was talking about not being able to get the touches that he wanted. He's got a huge price drop. We have him slated for 70+% of the market share in both rushing and rushing touchdowns. At 6K, this is a guy that I paid 8K for earlier in the season. So I'm more than willing to go back there, even on the road. The Giants, by DVOA, are 31st against the rush. It is a weak point for them, absolutely. So Melvin Gordon, I agree, at 6K is a very good play. The tight ends for the Chargers are going to be chalky this week, specifically Hunter Henry, which is silly because Hunter Henry is not seeing the snaps. He's not seeing the targets. He's not seeing the work. He caught a touchdown last week, but other than that, he's done bupkis all year. So I get that the Giants are very bad against tight ends, but I don't have any interest there. I'd really prefer to just have my game stack here for Eli Manning and Sterling Shepard, and if I do play a Charger, which I will, it'll be Melvin Gordon.
I don't hate it. I'm all over Eli this week, and I've been one of the biggest guys against Eli all season. 6,100 for Eli in this matchup is just beautiful. And one of my favorite guys, when I first looked at the prices earlier in the week and dug in even more, I love Brandon Marshall. Ever since they started this little short, quick offense, he's been a big-time target, double-digit targets back-to-back weeks, and he's going up against a very, very suspect secondary in San Diego. So I love his tag at 4,600. Ingram at 4K is outstanding. Eli's back to the old ways of just targeting over and over and over again. his tight ends, especially where it matters, 7 or more targets in 3 straight games. So I like an Eli, Marshall, Ingram stack if you want to attack it that way. And then I agree. Like Benjamin's a nice cheap 4K receiver. Eli Apple's horrible and literally has given up a touchdown like every week. That's what he does. And then Melvin Gordon, you're both dead on there. 6K for one of the top backs in the NFL is ludicrous. So you can look those ways for sure. But my main objective is on the Giants side of things. But I don't mind San Diego because both these offenses are defenses. I mean, are just bad defenses. All right, let's take it to Philadelphia, Arizona at Philly, another kind of West Coast team traveling to the northeast area. Total of 45. Philadelphia almost a touchdown favorite. James, kick us off in Philly.
So yeah, Carson Wentz has finally gotten his price elevated. He's now 6,600. He still throws with some of the most volume in the league. They really don't like to run the ball on this Philadelphia team, and that's fair because they don't have really very good running backs, especially Wendell Smallwood. It missed practice today with a knee injury, so that's who they were going to be feeding is now injured possibly. So Carson Wentz at 6,600 is still going to have the volume, and this Arizona secondary isn't really that great besides Patrick Peterson. We know that Carson Wentz likes targeting his tight end, but Zach Ertz should see a lot of Tyrann Mathieu. So I will be avoiding that, especially for, let's see what elevated price tag he has this week, 6,200.
How did he do last week?
Well, he did decent. He didn't even pay off last week. What are you talking about? Take your victory lap.
I'm just talking about who he beat.
Twitter.
I'm just talking. He outplayed someone else.
He did outplay Gronk. Congratulations. But Carson Wentz, he's pretty much just going to be feeding what should be Nelson Aguilar and Torrey Smith. Nelson Aguilar has looked like a different wide receiver this year. He's actually had hands that are not made out of some sort of granite material, and he's still only 3,900. So I think that Carson Wentz to Nelson Aguilar / Torrey Smith is not a bad way to be contrarian, especially because Alshon Jeffrey will see Patrick Peterson and Zach Ertz will see Tyrann Mathieu the entire game. You can pretty much expect them to be basically shadowed by those two all game. And you can get access to a lot of Carson Wentz using Aguilar, who's my preferred. Carson Palmer, on the other side of this, has not seen his price elevate, but is throwing more than anybody else in the league. He has 188 attempts through 4 games. His arm's going to fall off by their bye week, but I will be riding him until that arm falls off. He's just throwing so much. The issue is we don't know who he's going to throw the freaking ball to. He gave 14 targets to Andre Ellington last week and only 6 to Larry Fitzgerald. John Brown back this week. Jerron Brown is still there. Larry Fitzgerald.
You got to play him naked, man.
Yeah, I don't know where I would stack with it is the thing. So, I mean, I think that you could go back to Larry Fitzgerald, but he is going to be seeing a lot of who's their cornerback? Some tip my tongue. They have a good quarterback or cornerback, and Larry Fitzgerald's going to see a lot of him. So, if John Brown is healthy and gets his snaps increased this week, I really like John Brown at 5,100. We know that he's an explosive wide receiver who has not been healthy, but I think that he could really win this matchup. And with the volume that Carson Palmer is at right now, I think that you can take pretty much any of these wide receivers that will be starting and be okay with it. I did mention Andre Ellington. I'm not going to chase 14 targets, but I do think that he's viable in this game as a gap back at 4,600. He's who I would prefer over Duke Johnson. I don't really need to talk about the tight ends, but I should talk about the defenses. Since both of these quarterbacks drop back a lot and throw a lot, there's a lot of opportunity for turnover and sacks. The Cardinals at 2,300 are scary, but Patrick Peterson and Tyrann Mathieu could each get a pick in this game, and the pick 6 opportunity is there against a quarterback that's going to throw it 40 times. So 2,300, the Cardinals defense looks good to me. Overall in this game, I love both quarterbacks, Carson Palmer and Carson Wentz, and I like John Brown and Nelson Aguilar as my main position players to target.
A lot going on. What about you, Bucks?
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting game for sure, and there's a few guys I like. With Smallwood kind of likely being out and having a solid secondary, I think that Blount has a chance to have another big game at $4,200. Especially if they can get into the red zone, goal line stuff. I do like Palmer, like you said, James, because he has just a plethora of weapons, but we don't know where they're going to go. The Eagles' pass rush is legit, but if Palmer can get the ball out of his hands quick, he has a really good shot, and he has a ton of weapons to go to. On the Eagles side, as James mentioned, I do expect Jeffrey to see Peterson and get shut down. I do expect Honey Badger to be on Ertz, and that leaves me two guys, Aguilar and Smith. Aguilar, I hate, and he just is not. Maybe he's playing better this year.
He's been
Maybe.
good this year, man. He's been good.
Mm-hmm. I've used him a few times.
I'm waiting for him to normalize back to bad. But here's the reason why I like Torrey Smith better. Torrey Smith is going to see a lot of Bethel, who has been rocked this year. And Torrey Smith has had his opportunities over the last couple games, and he's barely missed, a lot like Goodwin has earlier this year. And I think this is like a week that he can just see a ton of targets and crush. And obviously at $3,600, if he can catch one touchdown with the number of targets he's going to have, it's just going to be a massive, massive value. So I like Torrey Smith this week. I can see you go either way, but definitely avoid Jeffrey and Ertz.
Yeah, I am not going to be on Ertz this week, so there's no need to panic there. That's not happening. I love Wentz at 66 for everything you guys said, and then I had Aguilar as one of my top, cheap receiver options at 3,900. The guy has just done it game in and game out. And on the Arizona side, I love the idea of Palmer naked. That actually, well, not him physically naked, but playing him in the game naked actually sounds like a good idea. You don't know where he's going, but if you are going to go somewhere, we saw John Brown come back last week in a limited role, but that massively cut J.J. Nelson's timeshare. And Jerron Brown kept getting targeted over and over again, 3 straight double-digit weeks. Very, very productive. He's either found the end zone or he's going off in the target department. And I know that's, like James said, you can't predict where he's going. I like Jerron Brown at 4,500 as a guy I'd be targeting there. He seems to have found a rapport with Palmer, so he'd be my Arizona guy to target. But other than that, it's a very sneaky, interesting game that might open up more to me as the week goes on. But right now, there's other games I'm looking at. But this is a definite kind of one-off spots unless you want to stack Wentz with Aguilar or Jeff or what you call it. Smith. All right, Jacksonville at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh 8.5-point favorite. Total's 43.5. We all can agree on one play, I'm sure, on this game, and he's very expensive and he plays running back. But Bucks, kick us off.
Yeah, this is another tough, scrappy game. There is some rain in the forecast. Obviously, it's early, but still. Steelers D is my second favorite play of this game, which will tell you something. I can't get behind Big Ben right now, especially against the Jags secondary. And obviously, I'm not really behind anyone on the Jags side right now, after saying that the Steelers D is one of my favorite plays. The one person that I am behind, and we all called it last week, him having his first breakout game of the year, is Le'Veon Bell. He is 100% in play this week. I don't care if he's $9,500. The Jags D is tough, but they've been giving up a ton of yards to running backs. And with the Jags secondary looking good, Le'Veon should get a bunch of targets as well. 25 touches against a weak run D right now is a huge bump to get Le'Veon to that 40-burger mark again. And I fully expect him to break off a long run this game. So he is 100% in play for me. And if you are playing a McCown or a Cutler, you're going to have some money to spend, and you should definitely spend it in this direction. Fournette is interesting at 7K because he gets so many touches every week, and he's been solid this year. But I really do think that the Steelers' D is different at home, and I think they shut him down. I think there's better value on this slate at running back, a.k.a. Melvin Gordon. So I would avoid Fournette this week. Also, same thing with wide receiver and tight end this week. I think there's better value around. I even think there's better value than Antonio Brown this week for sure. So I'm really on two guys this week, or two plays in this game, and that's Steelers D and Le'Veon Bell.
I like it. James, what are you looking at?
I will say that I think the Steelers defense is overpriced at 39.
Oh, for sure, yeah. That's
an
insane price.
Yeah, it's just against Bortles, who they haven't been letting Bortles throw like at all. He only threw – I don't think he's eclipsed 25 passes yet this year. They're feeding Fournette, which is the smart thing to do. I mean, it's the right way to coach this team. When you know that Bortles is such a liability and you know that there's no Allen Robinson to like make up for any of his mistakes, I think it's the right thing to do to not have him pass a lot. But I digress. Le'Veon Bell at 9,500 is basically if you were able to get Russell Westbrook at 11K last year. I get that it's expensive. I don't care. 9,500 for a guy who is the best at his individual position and probably a top 3 player in the league, point blank period. You take that at home against literally the worst rush defense in the league, 32nd per DVOA. Last week, they let Bilal Powell run all over them. And if Bilal Powell is anything, he's like the poorest version of Le'Veon Bell that you can find. He's just like the shifty receiving back out of the backfield, but he touched it 20-plus times and put up 170 yards. What does Le'Veon Bell do in this spot at home against this defense,
40 burger.
Yeah, I mean, like a slate-breaking performance. With that said, you know who was super pissed last week? Antonio Brown.
Yep.
He was mad. He threw a water cooler, guys. A freaking water cooler. That's mad. Him and Big Ben got together, and you know that Antonio Brown is like, yo, you got to look my way when I'm going on these deep routes because he's been open all year.
Yeah.
So at 8,400, I get the Jacksonville defense has been good, but Antonio Brown is matchup proof, guys, and Big Ben is better at home. I know that Lev Bell is going to be very popular at 9,500. I know that Antonio Brown is not going to be popular. So in cash,
and he's cheap.
Yep.
I get it. I get it. 8,400 it's too cheap for Antonio Brown, who was 10K at points in the season last year. Big Ben has not looked good, but you know who else didn't look good? Russell Wilson, until he went all the way off against this Jacksonville team. Or no, it was against Tennessee. But he still went all the way off after looking bad. Right.
Yeah.
So I really like a Steelers stack with Big Ben, Antonio Brown, and Lev Bell. I think that could make up all of the offense. Martavis Bryant is going to be 0% owned this week with how Big Ben has looked. If you want to be contrarian and you want to attack this team, I think that you go with passing attack rather than Lev Bell. That is not to say that I don't absolutely love Lev Bell. I'm just trying to look for a way to be contrarian in using him. Other than that, I literally don't want a single piece of the Jacksonville team. I just don't. Leonard Fournette is very good. He's a very good back, and he's getting a lot of volume. But I'd rather have Melvin Gordon at 6K. I'd rather have Carlos Hyde at 6,900. I'd rather have Zeke Elliott at whatever price he's at. There's just other backs that I'd rather have. I'd rather have Todd Gurley. So it's really just, for me, it's Steelers onslaught, and that's it.
Yep. Just hit the Steelers smash button. That's where it's at. Bell, it's one of those, if he doesn't go off, it's because they decided to change the playbook for Brown or he gets hurt. That's the only way this doesn't happen. It's his game to just go crazy. But I love the Ben, Bell, Brown stack. If you want to get, you mentioned Bryant, Schuster's getting a ton of looks too at 3,500. So if you want to get really, really different there. But yeah, you can afford Ben, Bell, and AB with a lot of the guys we've already talked about. Go to those nasty games we mentioned earlier, and you can get some value there. So yeah, I love that spot. I won't beat a dead horse. That one's just outstanding with Lev Bell. Seattle at the Rams. Rams 1.5-point home favorites. Total is 47 in this game. They're expecting offense in LA. James, is it going to be offensive or not?
Yeah, no, yes. I don't know, man. It's kind of hard for me to read. I think that Russell Wilson's road is really not good because he needs that crowd to help him be good, I guess. I don't know. I don't know why his splits are so bad as a mobile quarterback, but they really are. So I don't really think that Russell Wilson is worth 7,100. I hadn't seen his price until now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Definitely not worth 7,100. That's egregious. But Jared Goff at 5,300 is interesting considering Cooper Kupp is going to be in the slot the entire time and is probably the best wide receiver on that team. And yes, I know that Sammy Watkins exists. Cooper Kupp is really, really good, and I've been saying it since the beginning of the season. He looked great last week. He's still only 4,500 with Sammy Watkins being 5K. Sammy Watkins is going to see Richard Sherman. You already know that he is. Cooper Kupp is not going to see Richard Sherman, and he's cheaper. So I really like Cooper Kupp in this matchup. I haven't even gotten to the best player in this game, which is Todd Gurley at 8K. I'm going to take the L. Todd Gurley looks great. I said that he was bad. He's not bad. He looks really good in this offense. So I can take the L on that one. He is 8K, but the weakness of Seattle right now is actually the rushing game. If you go over and look at DVOA, they are 30th in DVOA against running backs right now. So Todd Gurley's in play, man. They just feed him the ball all day, every situation, every part of the field. Todd Gurley at 8K is reaching that point where he's getting Le'Veon Bell usage. And that's something that at 8K, you're getting a discount. And Seattle's not good against the run, and he's at home. So if the offense is going to flow, if they're going to hit that total, I think it's through Gurley, and I think that it's through Russell Wilson being a magician. My only thoughts really here are play Todd Gurley and take the under because I don't think that Seattle is going to hang.
Interesting. What about you, Bucks?
Yeah, this was a super tough game. I mean, I'm not Russell Wilson has been overperforming, I think. He's just scrambling a ton, and I don't like him at $7,100. I do like Gurley a lot. He touches the ball. Here, the reason why I like him, the last couple weeks he has gotten the rushing yards, but he has been catching 7 balls or something a game. I think, or he's averaging 7 targets a game, catching on average of 5 balls a game. I mean, that alone is going to be massive. And I think this offense is going to roll through him. They're going to shut down Watkins. Kupp's going to get his, but they're going to be going after that Seattle rush D pretty often with Gurley. And I think that they're going to have to keep him honest because of his pass catching abilities this year. So I love the way they're using him. I do think that at 8K, he is going to be under-owned because of so many people trying to get to Lev Bell. They're not going to be able to get to both. So this is really interesting to me. I love Le'Veon Bell. Love him. But if I were to do something outside of him, I would probably go Gurley and Gordon and move on from there.
Yeah, I love Gurley in this spot. A lot of it's because of what you guys just said about everyone wanting to be on Bell. And if you're not on Bell, most are going to want to play for Zeke, who's right in that range because he's in the big game against Green Bay. Later on, we'll talk about that one. So Gurley is going to be so low owned compared to his talent level. James, you said it. They're 30th in the NFL in rush DVOA, which is horrible. I think that's a great play. If you want to go Goff, you can, but I think Gurley is really the only place I want to go. On the Seattle side, a couple interesting pieces. I know you guys don't like Russell Wilson, and I get that. But if he does anything in this game,
well, I like him. He scores a ton of points. He doesn't look like he plays good, and he puts up 30 points.
Well, yeah, and at his price tag, it's ridiculous at $7,100.
Yeah, well, he had Cutler at $5,200.
He got McCown at 45. But Jimmy Graham's $4,900, and they have built that rapport. We've seen it in recent weeks, and the Rams are 26th against the tight end, so he could be a nice play because he's kind of in that almost too expensive range where he'll be low owned if you don't want to go down. And then keep an eye on what the running back situation is in Seattle. When the injury came out that night or the next day, Pete pretty much said Rawls is his guy. And if Rawls is his guy, that's a big if. If you don't want to take the risk, you don't have to. The Rams are really bad against the rush also. They're 24th in the NFL, and Rawls is only 3,700. He's another cheap play to help you if you want your Pittsburgh stack or you want some other things somewhere. He could be a flex play somewhere for you. 3,700 for a running back that they might go to a lot against a bad rush defense. There's a lot of upside in that one. And the luxury of it being an afternoon game, you can put him in the flex and then flex out to another option if you have to. So there's options there. But keep an eye on Rawls. I think he could be a sneaky play. But Gurley, he's one of the top 5 running backs for sure this week. And price tag alone dictates that. Let's go to Oakland. Baltimore at the Raiders. Oakland 2.5-point favorites. Totals only 39. You have Flacco's not a backup quarterback, but he's playing like a backup quarterback. Bucks kick us off in Oakland.
Yeah, this is when you know you're just bad. When you have a backup quarterback and EJ Manuel priced higher than Joe Flacco.
Yeah, when I saw that earlier, I almost fell out of my chair.
I mean, so
that is not elite.
That alone, that price tag alone has me looking in that direction. I'm not going to play him, but it had me look at it for a while because $4,700 for a guy that has shown talent in the past is interesting to me. From a running back perspective, I think that Marshawn Lynch is in play here. Baltimore's just not good against the run. But who knows what EJ Manuel is going to do and how they're going to use him. A couple other people that I kind of like this week. And it's hard for me to say that because I guess the Ravens pass D doesn't look just atrocious, but Mike Wallace has been really close.
Yep.
And if I'm going to spend $4,700 on Flacco and hope that he goes off, Mike Wallace might be a guy to take a flyer on. But I'm not sure I want to even touch that. I do like the Ravens D this week because I think EJ Manuel is not good. So that would be the only play that I look at.
Yeah, it's pretty rough there. EJ was 11-17 for 106 and a pick in his brief stint in Denver. So, yeah, he's bad. He's really bad. So, James, what do you have in this just toilet bowl of an afternoon game?
Yeah, Flacco 4,700 is hilarious, but I don't have any inclination to really go there. But maybe I should, because the Raiders' defense is really, really bad against the pass. They don't have very good cornerbacks. I don't know how David Amerson and Sean Smith have been so bad, but here we are. So,
I can tell you why. David Amerson is not good.
Oh, okay. That's fair. Okay. Yeah, Flacco against a bad secondary in a presumed comeback game script.
Yeah.
I think 4,700. He's worth a look. I wouldn't go crazy with it, but I do think that he's worth a look, and his options are very cheap. Mike Wallace, like you said, is only 4K. Jeremy Maclin's only 4,200. Javoris Allen's only 4,500. So you could go with Joe Flacco at 4,700 if you are a little bit queasy on going Josh McCown at 4,500. But I think both of them are in very similar spots with pretty much similar weaponry. When you go over to the other side, EJ Manuel looked pretty good for the first drive. He went 8 of 9. He went 8 of 8 before he had an incompletion. He looked pretty good against the Denver secondary. What happened was that he was put into the game when the game script was very obvious that he had to be passing. And of course he's going to throw an interception at that point. But all in all, I don't think that DJ Manuel looked awful. I think that he looked poised. I think that he had a good repertoire with his wide receivers. Speaking of which, Amari Cooper's only 5,700, man. Like, it's kind of getting to the point where he's almost in must-play territory just based on price. If Crabtree plays this week at 6,400, he's obviously in play. So if I like both Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree based on price, I can't really hate EJ Manuel after doing well against the Denver defense until it got picked off, obviously. The real play that I want in this game is Benjamin Watson at 3,600. The Raiders are perennially bad against tight ends. They have a slow linebacker group that is not good at coverage. Benjamin Watson has been Flacco's favorite target over the last 3 weeks. He's only 3,600, and I know that he's missed practice with a calf injury, but if he's healthy, I think that's where the majority of the offense comes from, is through Benjamin Watson against the middle of the Raiders field. So there are options to like here. It's so hard because you would want to pair them with either Flacco or Manuel, or just have them as one-offs, and nobody wants to pair them with Flacco or Manuel. It's really hard. The only play that I think is truly in consideration here is Benjamin Watson, and I like the prices on the wide receivers in this game otherwise. I will not be using the defenses because I think both quarterbacks have a chance to do okay, but I might be completely wrong on that.
Yeah, the D's are in play, but it's just a bad game. It's almost like go elsewhere. Flacco at 47. Honestly, I'd rather give my chances with Brian Hoyer at 47 in a game that looks like it might actually be productive. Sure. I'd rather go that direction. He's just been so bad, but maybe this is the recipe he needs. I love Benjamin Watson. That's the guy I had circled at the bottom of my Ravens list. He's 3,600. Oakland's horrible against the tight end, and so is Baltimore. If you like Cook, go for it. But I like Watson a ton. That's about really all I would do here if you don't play the defenses. I can't fault you if you play the defenses. I prefer Baltimore's over Oakland because if anybody wakes up in this game, I could see it being Baltimore just because the talent's there. I don't know. I just don't know where it went. It's there somewhere. It's just I don't know where it went. So if anybody wakes up, it's them in my opinion, but we shall see. Let's head to the last game on the regular main slate. Green Bay at Dallas. Dallas 2-point home favorites. The total is 52.5, second highest total outside of the Thursday night action. So the highest one on Sunday. Lots to like here. James, start us off with the game.
Aaron Rodgers, baby. 8,100. Forever. I know that he's not as good on the road. He does have the Green Bay offense as a whole has noticeable home road splits. The Dallas defense is better at home, but this Dallas defense is really bad. They could not do anything against the Rams last week without Sean Lee. If he misses again, everybody on this Packers team is in play. The only issue is they are all relatively expensive when I could have the same volume from the Arizona passing game. Jordy Nelson's price is starting to climb up there. He's 81. Randall Cobb is 6,700. Devontae Adams, if he plays, 5,800. So this is an expensive stack. Vegas loves this game, which I think is probably fair. The Green Bay defense has been bad, and Dak Prescott has looked very good. He's been on point. He's been one of the more impressive players on the Dallas offense, whose O-line has not been good enough to give Zeke the holes that he had last year. To make up for that, however, Ezekiel Elliott has half of his total season targets or half of his total season receptions from last year already through a quarter of the season. Yep. He's going to catch a lot of balls this year, man.
Yep.
At 8,800 at home in a game that should be high scoring and competitive, I love him. He was really, really close last week to just breaking the entire game apart. And I think that this is another opportunity where if he's going to see those targets out of the backfield, he's another guy that's up there in that Lev Bell category of just getting all the market share and dominating out of the backfield. I think that people are going to go to Lev Bell and leave Ezekiel Elliott at 8,800. That gives me interest in Ezekiel Elliott absolutely as a GPP play.
Yeah, for sure.
The other situation to monitor here is Ty Montgomery and Jamal Williams are both questionable, but both did practice. So if all three of these running backs are healthy, Ty Montgomery, Aaron Jones, and Jamal Williams, you can't really play any of them because Ty Montgomery is going to have some snaps. Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams will split the rest. And then at that point, I really just want Randall Cobb, I think, on the short plays that Aaron Rodgers would generally be going to Ty Montgomery.
Absolutely.
So that's my thoughts on Green Bay. On Dallas, Des Bryant is way too cheap at 6,500. I know that both of y'all hate him with your souls, but getting all of the red zone targets and he's getting all of the yards through the air at 6,500. Have to assume that Des Bryant is going to be involved in. That's too cheap. So for me, the main targets are going to be Aaron Rodgers every week, and then a game stack apart from that. I really like Ezekiel Elliott. I like all of the main pieces, and I just this is a good game. This is a good game to end the afternoon slate with.
Yep.
Yeah, no doubt. And I want to clarify something. Bucks is the one that hates the Cowboys. I was all over Dez even last week, so that's what. Yeah. But Bucks, what do you like in this one besides hating the? Well, I'll let you do it.
Absolutely, I hate the Cowboys. With that being said, I don't know. This is a really fun game. I mean, I looked at this game and the Pats game more than I've looked at any two games all year for sure. Now, I think that this is a game where they could go over the total, and it's already crazy high. And I don't see if Rodgers does what I think he's going to do, I'm not sure I see a way for the Cowboys to win. And that's not saying the Cowboys aren't good, because I think they are good, and that kills me to say that. But Rodgers, if he performs at an elite level this week, which I think he can, is virtually unstoppable. I don't care about their defense being that bad. I think that the Green Bay defense is better than the Cowboys defense. So Rodgers is easily the highest upside QB of the week, even if he's priced at $8K. I think that 30 points is well within play. I mean, they run 65 plays a game, and if you think he tosses it 40 times this game, if not more, because of the running back situation, he's going to complete 27 to 30 balls, and that would have him like 3 TDs minimum, which is just insane. So literally every receiver's in play. I like Jordy, but I love Cobb at this price. and he is due to go bananas, especially if there's some question marks at the running back position. Cobb will be in play, and if Adams misses, I like Allison this week again. If I play multiple lineups this week, which I'm not sure I will do, this is definitely going to be a stack that I have. On the Dallas side, Dez is seriously due for a massive game as well. I mean, the targets are there, but honestly, I know Dak has been playing pretty well, but I don't think he's been doing him a ton of favors. I mean, he's thrown him some pretty questionable balls, and I understand Dez drops quite a few, but he has 16 catches with 40 targets or something stupid.
Yep.
But if this is a shootout, Dax is gonna have to go his way more than 10 times. And I think that Dez is looking sharper than he has in a while, which kills me to say. But I think Dez has a big game. I think 6 for 90 and at least a single touchdown is legit what his floor could be this week, even with Zeke potentially just going nuts. Zeke is going to have another 25 touches, and that for me is in this situation for him is a guaranteed touchdown. So 25 touches, over 150 total yards probably. I mean, he's not the most expensive guy this week, so it's almost like a pivot auto pivot to him off of Bell in GPPs, like you mentioned, James. So we'll see.
Yeah, I love Zeke, and while you guys were talking, I was poking around on FanShare, and as you'd expect with a total like this game is being targeted all over the place.
Well, yeah,
it's disgusting. Sure. Except Zeke's the 5th running back down the list. Even Andre Ellington's above him. So let that one.
That's just fucking stupid.
but back to, I was reading some of the Dez is the top receiver. There's some other ones early in the week. But back to this game, I love Dak. Obviously, Rodgers. You guys had it all. We could literally just say Aaron Rodgers every week and move on. If you want to pay for him, yes, he's going to throw and throw and throw and throw and throw some more. Jordy scores touchdowns. That's what he does. I think I saw last week 21 of 24 games, at least one touchdown. It's crazy. So he meets value almost every game he's out there. I love Cobb. I'm glad you said that. If Adams is out, it's huge. It opens up Allison. The whole offense is in play. I'm staying off the running backs, though, but all the receivers, the quarterback, love it. The Dallas side, though, is the only way, in my opinion, you're going to make yourself different in this game. You go to a guy like Dak, who's been playing really, really well, $6,800. Zeke is a great play. That's what I said when we talked about Gurley. It's like Lev Bell, Zeke, and then Gurley, 8K and above those three. Bell's going to get so much of it, and it kind of sneaks down the list. It'll be really interesting. I love Zeke at this spot. He was great last week, like you guys said, nearly just exploded. And it was like firecrackers last week instead of the M80. It was close. And then Dez Bryant, I rode him. He's got 30, like I said, the drops are there, but he's still getting the targets, 13 red zone targets. It's crazy what he's doing. I'm going to mention this guy every week because 1 week they're actually going to realize he's valuable to their offense besides 2 pass attempts a game and he scores a touchdown at least once a game, is Bryce Butler. He's 3,500. And if Green Bay's going, this guy, he scores and he gets open. They'd rather have Terrence Williams block. That's how their offense runs because the Ginger is just an idiot. But Bryce Butler's so talented, should be out there. I'll mention him every week because eventually they'll figure it out. But Prescott, Zeke, Dez on their side of things, then pretty much any receiver, wide receiver, and Rodgers. No doubt about it. Let's get to the Sunday night game. You got Kansas City at Houston. Houston, 1.5-point home dogs. Total's 46.5 on this one. James, kick us off in Houston.
I went on a total tirade arguing on Twitter about Kareem Hunt's actual value in that offense. It
was amazing.
I have some prop bets for the end of the year now. Needless to say, I took that one all the way home. But Kansas City as a team starting out 4-0 is fantastic. We've seen a lot of teams do that, though, that have ended up kind of coming and crashing down. I'm not sure that I'm ready to believe that Alex Smith has turned the corner into this absolute juggernaut of a quarterback. I think that a lot of things have kind of broken his way. Kareem Hunt, while I do think he's very, very talented, isn't getting the usage that he needs to be getting in that offense, and that's my problem with him. I am fine with Kansas City in this game because I think that you can you know exactly who it's going to go to. You know the people that are going to touch the ball. You know it's going to be Kareem Hunt. You know that it's going to be Travis Kelce. You know that it's going to be Tyreek Hill. That's pretty much all they got. So you know where the ball is going to go. And I think that it's worth saying that because there's a lot of teams that you don't. We've already mentioned a couple. So in a relatively high total game, I think that it is worth taking some Kansas City Chiefs. On the other side, Deshaun Watson has looked great. Every single game that he's played, he's gotten better. His repertoire with DeAndre Hopkins has gotten better. He looked great with Will Fuller, who is cheap for what he can be in that offense. And Lamar Miller actually looked like a living, breathing running back last week, which is incredible. We don't get to see that often. I totally agree with total in this game. However, I don't know that I want a bunch of exposure to it with all the other games we've talked about against worse teams, you know?
Yeah.
I still like DeAndre Hopkins. His market share is going to continue to be very, very high. And I think that this week I would like to go Travis Kelce over any of the other Kansas City options. Just based on volume and consistency in that offense. So I guess the only things that I really want here are Hopkins and Kelce. I suppose you can go to Deshaun Watson if you would like.
Fair enough. Bucks, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned it on Twitter several times, but I think the Chiefs are overrated. And I had somebody hammer me about how I could possibly think a 4-0 team is overrated. But, I mean, when you look at Alex Smith, I don't view him as an elite quarterback. He has been serviceable in this offense. Kareem Hunt has been good. But, again, he's played 4 games, and he had 2 mediocre performances against good defenses. And you have Tyreek Hill, who's supposed to be the main guy, right, in this receiving core, and he's averaging less than 7 targets a game. I mean, you have to target your playmakers more than that. And I understand that he can score at any given point in time, but I just don't see a way that their success is sustainable. With that being said, I do like Kelce this week. I think he is a stud. And last week, it was a 100% guarantee he was going to go off against the Redskins in their terrible secondary. Or terrible coverage for tight ends, I should say. But I just think that the Chiefs are overrated. I do think that they can win this game for sure. But I do like Houston to give it a whirl because I think DeAndre Hopkins is good. I think Lamar Miller showed signs of life last week, which we talked about last week's pod. I think Will Fuller adds a whole new level there to that offense. And then you talk about Griffin and some of those other options. I think that Houston is a decent team, especially when you consider if their defense starts playing the way they should, they can hang with a lot of people. If Watson can play well and protect the ball and not make terrible decisions, Houston should be in most of these games. And I think that if I were to play anybody this week, it would be Kelce. I would not play Hunt. I'm not playing Hill because I think for $6,700, there's better options around there. And Kareem Hunt is $8,600.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's the second highest priced running back. I mean, it's just mind-boggling to me. And that's fine. If you want to play him for 86, have at it, please. Let me know. Send me a head-to-head. Let's do it.
I love it. Yeah, Kelsey's the only place I'm going with Kansas City. The short week, too many just close games, and Houston's defense is actually pretty good, especially at home. So Kelsey's all I want there, but I do like Hopkins and Watson, and I really, really like Lamar Miller this week at 5,000. The biggest weakness in Kansas City is their rush defense, and we talked about last week. Miller showed signs of life. If they're willing to feed him the ball, say it's a close game or something, I think Miller definitely opens things up, and no one's going to own him. Nobody. And he's 5K. So definitely appealing to me. Let's go to Monday night, finish this off. Minnesota at Chicago, NFC North battle. We have no lines as we are still waiting on the Minnesota quarterback situation. We got a rookie starter making his debut for the Bears. Bucks, what do you got?
Yeah, if I had to guess on a line, I'd say 44.5 with Minnesota being favored by, I don't know, 3.5 or something.
Yeah.
4 points, I don't know, something like that. But I'm not a fan of this game. I mean, I definitely think that you have guys like Diggs and Thielen are always going to be a play unless they have like the worst matchup on the planet. Those two guys are just ridiculous. Getting tons and tons of targets. They're catching the ball at a great rate, scoring touchdowns. I think that Thielen, he has the same amount of targets as Diggs, just not as many touchdowns, but I think that can change. I do like Rudolph as well. The only guy that I'm really a fan of, I will not play Kendall Wright. I don't care how many times people talk about him and how good the matchup is. I'm not playing Kendall Wright. The only guy that I like on the Chicago team, I think, is Zach Miller, and even that's a stretch for me. So
too cheap though. He's too cheap.
Oh, he's great. Yeah, he's cheap, but I don't know. This is just one of those games where I think that maybe I play Vikings defense and Thielen and move on.
All right, James, I'm curious to hear what you have to say about this one.
Not a lot, really. I think that the over-under when it comes out is going to be something like 41, slightly lower than what Bucks thought, and I think that Minnesota is going to be a big favorite. I think maybe 5 points, 6 points. We have seen that Case Keenum is a capable quarterback in this offense. Without Dalvin Cook, the team is slightly worse, I suppose, but we all know that running backs don't really move the needle that much. So whether it's Latavius Murray or Jerick McKinnon or whoever it is that is back there, I don't think they really have that huge effect on this game. On the Chicago side, Trubisky is going to be better than Mike Glennon. We can say that pretty much for sure. How much better, we don't know. This is his first game, and it's against a really, really good defensive unit.
Yeah, what a terrible draw for him, man.
Yeah, man, it really sucks that they would wait until this game to
start. Leave it to John Fox.
I was thinking about that earlier. Like, what a terrible spot to put a rookie quarterback first game.
Yeah, it's brutal for him, but I'm glad that they are starting him. You can't expect fireworks out of him in this first game, especially with the wide receiver core that he has. And now also we have Tariq Cohen losing pretty much all of his time to Jordan Howard, who, to be fair, is probably the superior back. But Cohen, like we've mentioned a couple times on this podcast, needs to be lining up at wide receiver for this team. He's the best playmaker that they have as far as receiving goes. I think that you largely avoid this game in DFS. You can take the Vikings defense. I think that they're fair. Trubisky's going to make mistakes. And I don't like this game from a DFS perspective as much as I like it from a real life perspective. I think that it'll be interesting to see how good Trubisky plays, how the decisions that he makes. if you're going to play anybody from this game, I think that you just go the Minnesota defense. Diggs is in play, Thielen's in play, but I'm not really interested in this game from DFS perspective. I just want to see how Trubisky plays.
Yeah. Vikings defense, Thielen, Diggs. That's about it. If you get like 100% positive reinforcement that Latavius Murray's there, maybe, but I think I'd rather go elsewhere. I think they're gonna go up, like you guys said, big lead, pound the rock. There's no need to have Keenum throwing the ball everywhere. So that's where the running game might come into play. But Diggs, Thielen, and their defense, that's about it. I did have Miller down. I don't mind that. You know, when you look at rookie quarterbacks, they love to dump it off and they love their tight ends. That's what they do until they get a relationship elsewhere. The only other thing I would say is I couldn't find it. Maybe I got to dig deeper. Maybe find out who his buddy was in preseason in a practice squad, because we've seen that so many times when a rookie quarterback comes out, like the third or fourth receiver on the depth chart all of a sudden gets a big role in a game. So that could be a real long shot thing if you want to go there. But, yeah, stay away from this game. Like you guys said, that's probably the best bet. All right, that wraps up all 14 games. Let's just do a quick wrap around. Let's give one or two busts. Bucks, start us off.
If you're playing full slate, this is fairly easy to me. From a running back perspective, Kareem Hunt at $8,600. And this is not just because I dislike the guy or because the Redskins got beat on Monday Night Football against the Chiefs, but I legitimately don't think that right now, especially against the defense, that he should be $8,600. So I think he's going to be a bust. I don't think he hits value there. From a wide receiver perspective, I think that I don't think Larry Fitzgerald hits value at $6,800. I'm not a fan of his this week. And then I know we talked about it earlier. Last guy I'll mention, I think that Zach Ertz at $6,200 is just ridiculous, and I don't see him even coming close to value.
Yep. James?
My two busts are going to be Duke Johnson, first off, because I think that he's going to be I think it's going to be more popular than he should be, and the market share just isn't there. I don't like non-volume chalk. Then my other piece of bust will be Hunter Henry, because I've seen a lot of people talk about him, and again, it's just he's not getting the work, and he might get a touchdown, but if he luck boxes into a touchdown, I think you need to reevaluate your process anyway. You shouldn't be playing somebody who's getting that sure. Like, don't be results oriented. If your process is leading you to play Hunter Henry, I think that you need to reevaluate how you choose your tight ends.
You think running back by committee is bad? Tight end by committee is like just insane.
It's 1,000 times worse. So those are my busts.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Mine, I had Zach Ertz written down and Russell Wilson at the quarterback position. Not feeling Russell this week. Let's go with a couple core players. Bucks, what do you have?
Core players, I'm definitely going to own Melvin Gordon this week. I am definitely going to own T.Y. Hilton this week. And
let's hear it.
I'm now unsure of who I'm going to play at quarterback this week. But no, I think Melvin Gordon and T.Y. Hilton will be my two core plays this week. I do, and this is before hearing about how chalky you think he's going to be, but I do like Aldrick Robinson at $3,100.
Okay. What about you, James? What do you got for core?
For my core, I am in love with Carlos Hyde for one. $6,900 is a really nice price for him. I'm still going to be on Aldrick Robinson. I don't mind $3,100 for somebody who we played Marquise Goodwin in the exact same spot last week. So
at a much higher price.
Yeah, so I think that it's worth taking Aldrick Robinson. I don't mind that he's going to be chalk. And then my third core piece is actually going to be the Dolphins defense. I think that at $2,700 they're very, very cheap, and up against like the best defensive quarterback points in the world.
Yeah. I like it.
I don't hate that. And I hope it comes true. I really, really do. And my guys, I have Hyde, Brandon Marshall, and throw up the X, Des Bryant. I will have him everywhere. I'll have Des everywhere. All right, gentlemen, that wraps up week 5. Any final words?
No injuries, please. God, no injuries.
Oh, shit. Anything for you, James?
Make sure to check out Daily Roto. We're kind of redoing a couple things, and the customizable projections and the optimizer are now running. So go over there and check that out and get learned.
Sweet.
Get learned. I like it. All right, everybody. Week 5 in the books. Thanks for listening again to 2 Point Conversion NFL DFS podcast. You can find Bucks on Twitter at BPSnow11, James at PayDirt_DFS, and I am at BDintric. Catch you guys later.
Thanks, Bubba.